When the sky burned with human rage, I came to Earth believing I understood sentience. On my world, emotion is studied like a pattern of wind, measurable, predictable, and harmless once charted. We do not shout or cry or strike. We do not kneel in despair or rise in defiance. Our minds are ordered gardens, every thought trimmed, every feeling controlled. Humans fascinated me because they weren't gardens. They were storms. I had read their data for decades from orbit, watched their histories unfold through images, intercepted their broadcasts, studied the trembling waves of their art. Rage, grief, love, all of it burned through them like fire through dry leaves. I thought it was chaos. But I was wrong. It wasn't chaos. It was power. First contact. My name, if translated, would mean the one who observes without judgment. I was sent to Earth as part of the third observation wave. The Council had grown concerned with humanity's increasing energy emissions, their experiments with artificial intelligence, and their unpredictable military escalations. The Council feared contagion. That emotion, once encountered too closely, could infect even us. When I landed, the world below was already trembling. I chose a quiet valley on the northern continent, a small settlement of humans rebuilding after war. Their cities were broken, their skies still bruised with the dust of conflict. Yet they smiled. They laughed. They kissed under ruined trees as though the sky hadn't just fallen. Confused me deeply. A woman named Evelyn found me first. She mistook me for one of her kind, a foreign scientist from a distant region. I wore a human form, as our genetic replicators allowed it, and my translator learned her language in seconds. She offered me water, even though her own ration was small. She led me to her camp, where a few dozen survivors lived among tents and shattered glass towers. They asked me where I had come from. I said, "Far enough to not understand you." They laughed. That laughter, it had no equivalent in my world. It was a sound that existed only in the space between exhaustion and hope. I began recording it. The quiet before the storm. For several weeks I lived among them. I documented everything. The way they rebuilt broken machines, the way they argued over scraps of food, the way they held each other at night as though the world might vanish if they let go. They were volatile, yes, but there was an artistry in their volatility. Evelyn once told me, "We're not meant to be peaceful. If we were, we'd never change." I thought it was poetic nonsense, until the day the soldiers came. They arrived from the neighboring territory, a different faction of survivors. They wore metal and anger like armor. They demanded supplies, labor, and loyalty. Evelyn's people refused. Began with shouting, then gunfire. I watched from the ridge above the camp, my recording lens capturing every frame. The humans below screamed, bled, and fought with an intensity that defied reason. They tore at one another like the laws of existence demanded it. One soldier set fire to the food tents. Flames licked upward, painting the night in violent gold. I heard a man crying as he shot another. I saw a mother clutching her child's body and scream a sound that made my own body tremble. Though I have no true nerves, no heart, still something within me broke. This was human fury, and I could not look away. 3. The infection. After the battle, only a few remained. Evelyn was one of them. Her face was streaked with soot, her eyes hollow. When I approached, she turned on me like a wounded animal. "Why didn't you help us?" she hissed. Had no answer. My mission forbade interference. I was only to observe. But her words dug into me like metal shards. I watched as she knelt beside a dying friend and pressed her palm to the woman's chest. She whispered something, I recorded the sound, and then the woman stopped breathing. That night, Evelyn burned the bodies. I stood beside her in silence, the flames reflecting in her eyes. "Do you hate them?" I asked. Her gaze didn't leave the fire. "I want to, but I can't." They were just scared. Scared. That word changed everything. I began to see fury not as madness, but as fear twisted by love. Fear of loss, fear of helplessness, fear that the world would take everything and leave you hollow. And I felt it spreading through me. The council had been right. Emotion was contagious. I started to dream. We do not dream on my world. Sleep is only data defragmentation. But on Earth, beneath the sound of burning, I dreamed of the war, of Evelyn's eyes, of the fire that consumed everything. And when I woke, I felt heat in my chest, a phantom organ pulsing with something new. I began to understand humans not through study, but through infection. For the return of the sky. Weeks passed. I learned to speak like them, to eat their food, to mimic their habits. Evelyn taught me how to plant seeds in the ruined soil. They might never grow, she said, but trying makes you feel like you still belong to the world. She smiled as she said it, and something in my body reacted, a strange ache that had nothing to do with logic. But Earth was not done teaching me. From the horizon came thunder. Not the weather but machines. Drones from another faction, heavily armed, hovering like metal locusts. They sought to claim the valley. I told Evelyn to run. She refused. "I'm done running," she said. The drones began firing. Explosions tore through the ground. The sky turned orange. And then I saw it again, that fury, that blinding human fury. The survivors screamed not in fear, but defiance. They threw rocks, hurled bottles, shot at the machines with ancient rifles. Their faces twisted in rage so pure it almost looked divine. One man ran straight into the fire, clutching a grenade to his chest. He shouted something before he vanished in the explosion. My translator rendered it as for the living. It was madness. It was courage. It was everything my species feared. The drones eventually retreated, damaged by their own indiscriminate attack. But the valley was gone. Trees burned to black skeletons. The soil glowed from chemical ash. Evelyn fell to her knees, sobbing, her hands in the dirt. I knelt beside her. For the first time I reached out, and felt her pulse beneath my hand. It raced like lightning, fragile but unstoppable. "I don't understand you," I whispered. She laughed through her tears. "No one does. That's the point." A fury. Days later they came again. This time they brought soldiers, not drones but humans. The same kind as Evelyn, only angrier, hungrier, desperate to survive. Something in me broke then. I remembered every scream, every fire, every tear that had fallen into the dirt. I remembered the man who died shouting for the living. I remembered Evelyn's voice, trembling as she begged me to help. And so I did. I unleashed the energy within my containment field, the kind that could rewrite matter. It was forbidden. I had sworn never to use it. But I did. The ground split open, light poured upward, and the soldiers vanished in silence. When it was over, Evelyn stared at me like I had become one of them. "What did you do?" she whispered. "I stopped them," I said. "I saved you." Her voice was soft. "You destroyed them." I looked at my hands, still glowing faintly from the discharge, and for the first time I felt fear. Not for myself but for what I had become. I had unleashed fury. Not human, not alien, but something between. Something contagious. 6. Confession. Evelyn didn't speak to me for days. She buried the dead, marked their graves with scraps of metal, and refused my help. "You said you came to understand us," she told me one night. "Now you've become worse." I didn't argue. She was right. The council contacted me soon after. They had seen everything through my transmission logs. I was ordered to return immediately. "You have been compromised," they said. "The human condition has infected your cognitive matrix." But I couldn't leave. Not yet. I had to see how far the infection went. So I stayed. I watched Evelyn rebuild again, weaker this time, older somehow. I saw her plant seeds in burned soil again, even though we both knew nothing would grow. When I asked why, she said, "Because hope isn't about believing. It's about trying." That night, I recorded her final message for my report. "Humans are fragile because we care. We destroy because we love too much. Our fury isn't evil, it's just love on fire." I replayed those words for hours. And then I realized, the council would never understand them. They would erase her, erase me, to preserve their illusion of purity. So I destroyed my transmission beacon. 7. The last fire. The council came for me eventually. Their ship broke through the clouds like a silver wound. I saw the reflection of the fire-lit valley in its hull, a mirror of all I had lost. They demanded surrender. I refused. They didn't attack. Not immediately. They offered negotiation, extraction, restoration of my original form. But I had already changed. My mind burned with human thought, my heart, an artificial construct, beat in sync with the rhythm of a dying world. When they threatened to sterilize the region, Evelyn stood before me. "If you go," she said, "you'll save yourself. But if you stay, maybe you'll understand." I stayed. When the council unleashed their purging wave, I shielded the valley. The light tore through me, atom by atom, until there was almost nothing left. But in those final moments, I saw Evelyn looking up. Her face illuminated by both destruction and awe. Her mouth formed a word, I think it was thank you. And then the sky burned. Aftermath. I do not know if I survived in the physical sense. What remains of me exists in fragments, sensory recordings, scattered across the planet's magnetic field. Sometimes when the wind moves through the ruins, I think I hear her voice again. Sometimes I feel the echo of that fury, that impossible beautiful fury, that made me more than I was. If anyone ever finds this record, tell the council this. Humans are not to be feared. They are to be remembered. Because in their rage I found meaning. And in their destruction I found creation. They taught me that to feel, even to hurt, is to live. The last thing I saw before my vision collapsed into static was the Earth's sky, burning not from war this time, but from dawn. And I thought, perhaps fury and light are the same thing, just seen from different sides of the soul.